Everything that has happened this season all leads to what has been promised to be a surprising finale. In episode 9, we saw even more predictions play out, setting up what is sure to be the biggest war that we have ever seen in Power history, and possibly the biggest return ever. Episode 9 opens with Tommy and D-Mac standing over JP's body, and the contrast between them immediately hits. D-Mac is too broken and filled with anger to even say goodbye, while Tommy is forced to stay focused. We see how Diamond is distracting himself by getting involved with Madame Wu, and that move could become a strategic advantage in the coming war, especially after the loss of Diamond later in the episode. Jenard tells Diamond that he took out both King Kilo and JP, and instead of sitting with the consequences, he immediately starts plotting. His plan was to tell the RDs that JP killed King Kilo so that they will turn their attention toward Tommy. Jenard's other plan also involved aligning with the Marquez cartel so that they can come after Tommy from multiple angles and ultimately take over. Tommy goes to Shanti looking for information on Jenard's location, but Shanti shuts him down by saying that Jenard would be expecting him, since Jenard knows that she's been doing business with Tommy. That moment grabbed my attention and made me question Shanti's true intentions. It felt less like caution and more so positioning on Shanti's part, and it almost seems that she's keeping her options open in case the tide turns. Miguel wanted to make a move on Ortega as soon as he received word on his location, but Tommy is locked in on avenging JP's death first. Miguel pushes back and tells Tommy to put the living before the dead and focus on protecting Mireya, which leads to Tommy compromising by telling Miguel to take out Ortega while he handles Jenard himself. Shanti then reminds Tommy that he only has 6 hours left to come up with the money Che is expecting, and Tommy confidently says he'll take out Jenard and still make the deadline, which feels like classic Tommy optimism mixed with desperation. Jenard feeds the RDs the lie that JP was responsible for King Kilo's death, while Diamond adds fuel to the fire by telling them Tommy lied about who killed Mad Dog. Together, Diamond and Jenard successfully convince the RDs to go after Tommy, but the RDs decide that D-Mac has to go first. That's when Jenard pushes Marshall to take out D-Mac, knowing it would completely blindside him since they were so close with each other. As D-Mac is unable to reach Tommy, he finds Marshall, who pointed a gun at him while giving him a warning. And that was a huge mistake by Marshall for not pulling the trigger, because that ultimately led to him being killed by D-Mac for not revealing Jenard's location. On the law enforcement side, Bobby learns that the so-called lawyer who met with Merkovich wasn't legit, which leads them to suspect the Marquez cartel's involvement. Sang tries to flip Vic by pressuring him to pin Stacy's murder on Tommy, but Vic refuses to snitch at first. Instead, Vic figures out that Sang is dirty and working for someone else, which led to Vic then flipping the script and offering to give a written statement blaming Tommy for Stacy's death, in exchange for walking free. And Sang shockingly agrees. Trina Delgado later pushes Bobby DeFranco to look into Chan, after Bobby learned that Sang allowed Vic to walk free by giving up Tommy. Which leads to DeFranco uncovering that Sang is a double agent, working with the Marquez cartel, after he witnessed Sang accepting a bribe from him. Diamond later meets with Ortega, and offers to leave the Estradas and join the Marquez cartel, bringing an entire coalition while also bringing in serious money with him. Ortega agrees, but makes it clear that he doesn't want anyone else going after Tommy because he wants that kill for himself. Miguel warns Tommy that CBI and the Marquez cartel have joined forces, and almost immediately after the call, Tommy is ambushed by the RDs, but ends up being captured. Moments later, Miguel is captured also, and that's when it was revealed that Che was behind it all. He explains that he had them followed after Ortega went after Mireya, and he also knows that Mireya is pregnant with Tommy's child. That realization made Che assume Tommy and Miguel were plotting together to take out Ortega. Tommy counters by telling Che about Diamond and Jenard teaming up with the Marquez cartel, as well as CBI working with Madame Wu. Tommy manages to convince Che that letting them deal with CBI and the Marquez cartel benefits him more than killing them. Che agrees but makes it clear that if they disobey him again, Mireya dies. To keep leverage, Che decides to hold onto Miguel until Tommy pays every dollar that he owes. That final moment, really underlines how the walls are closing in on Tommy at this point in the season, because every move that he makes going forward puts someone that he loves directly in the crosshairs of danger. Tommy kills a CBI member who refuses to give up Jenard's location, showing just how far he's willing to go, now that the lines are completely crossed. Shanti later delivers the money to Che, officially cementing herself as Tommy's new business partner, but that move didn't come off as loyalty. It more so feels like Shanti positioning herself at the center of power. Kate finds out that Mireya is pregnant, and has a surprisingly grounded conversation with her about what it really means to raise a child in this life. But Kate later overhears Mireya planning a one-way trip to Mexico, and I believe that this is going to come back into play between Tommy and Mireya in episode 10, especially with how dangerous everything has become. Jenard learns about Marshall's death and immediately goes looking for Tommy, but instead, he runs into Kate, leading to Jenard nearly killing her, until the only thing that stops him is the sound of approaching sirens. After Kate gives Tommy a description of the attacker, Tommy instantly realizes Jenard was responsible and wastes no time moving Kate and Mireya to Little Village to keep them safe. Not long after, Shanti tells Tommy that she has an inside man within CBI, and promises to get the information needed to make the next move. Towards the conclusion of episode 9, Diamond confronts Jenard about being back on drugs and about the attempt on Kate's life, but Jenard denies everything. Diamond also reveals that there's a snitch inside CBI, after he notices members of Miguel's crew lurking outside of the church, confirming that someone has been feeding information. That realization sets everything in motion. Tommy, Miguel, and both of their crews storm into the church, and it explodes into a full-on shootout. D-Mac gets shot, and in the chaos, Diamond sacrifices himself to save Jenard. This moment felt tragic and poetic at the same time. Some people thought Diamond might end up back in prison by the end of the season, but the writing was on the wall before the season even started. Based on how last season ended and how this season opened, Diamond's arc was clearly heading somewhere darker. When you factor in Diamond's reunion with Tommy in this episode, and his emotional moment with Jenard inside the church right before the shootout, those were all clear warning signs. The show was telling us quietly but clearly that Diamond's time was almost up. The title of episode 10, The Beginning of the End, already tells us a lot. It doesn't feel like the end of Tommy's story, but the start of his final chapter, and one that clearly leads into Power Legacy. Because of that, I think it's very likely that we see Tommy finally contact Tariq, setting the stage for what's coming next. There's a strong chance this could even tie back to the phone call we saw in the Power Book 2 post-credit scene. I believe Tommy may use Tariq, and whoever comes with him, as a way to get close to Jenard, since no one in Chicago would recognize Tariq or know who he is, and that could be the favor that Tommy ends up calling in. The trailer opens with Jenard at what looks like a CBI or coalition meeting, telling everyone it's time to pick a side. Jenard has plenty of ammunition to turn people against Tommy after Diamond and Marshall's death, both of which he can easily pin on Tommy or even D-Mac. What makes this even more dangerous is that Jenard knows that no one is left alive who can expose the fact that he was the one who sent Marshall to kill D-Mac in the first place. Jenard is also shown waiting outside JP's funeral, which immediately stood out to me back when the trailer for the season premiered. I originally predicted that someone innocent could get caught in the crossfire outside of the funeral, and I still believe that it's very possible. D-Mac, Kate, Mireya, or even D-Mac's girl Genesis could end up taking a bullet, and that would push Tommy into a place there's no coming back from. Bobby DeFranco will likely make a major move, with him either taking out Sang, or he could use the photos he took of Sang with Chan as leverage to finally bring him down. Either way, Sang's days feel numbered. We also see Vic returning to Chicago to finish his business with Tommy, despite the fact that he boarded a plane to leave in episode 9. That alone tells me something went wrong. I strongly believe the person Vic is talking to about going after Tommy is Jenard, and that alliance feels like a last desperate play for both of them. A massive shootout breaks out at what looks like a warehouse, and this is where things could get really interesting. Tommy is shown hiding behind a truck, possibly wounded or completely out of bullets, while multiple shooters are closing in on him. This is where I think Tariq makes his entrance. In the trailer, there's a mystery shooter taking out the men that are coming after Tommy, and all signs point to that being Tariq stepping in to save him. As far as death predictions for the finale, Miguel is high on my list. I could see him sacrificing his life to protect Mireya, especially if Che tracks her down at the house in Little Village. Miguel could also die during the warehouse shootout, which would completely change Mireya's future. I also expect a significant number of CBI members to be wiped out before the dust settles. Vic's fate also feels sealed at this point, and whatever plan he puts together to take out Tommy is likely to fail, leaving Tommy with the upper hand and finally ending Vic's story for good. Mireya's situation is tricky. If she actually follows through on leaving Chicago for Mexico, I think it could end badly, especially with the Marquez cartel still active. However, if Miguel dies, I could see that being the final push that makes her leave Chicago. On the other hand, if she survives, I could easily see her returning to New York with Tommy and Kate, trying to rebuild what's left. While nearly everyone expects Jenard to die in the finale, I think that there's a strong chance he survives. He's starting to feel like a 2.0 version of Dre, a character whose death is long overdue, yet somehow always manages to escape. That theory is only strengthened by behind-the-scenes photos of the actor who plays Jenard with members of the Power Book 2 cast.
Hey, on set, we got the whole family here. Where is he? There he is.
You got a new addition to this.
Coming soon, baby. Coming soon. Tell him, Joe. Coming soon.
That's right. Coming soon. 2026. You guys, this is gonna blow your mind.
If Jenard makes it out alive, I wouldn't be surprised if he heads to New York to continue coming after Tommy, setting him up as a major threat in Power Legacy. Creating multiple enemies for both Tommy and Tariq with the possibility of Elisa Marie and the Italians, as well as Detective Carter as potential enemies in Power Legacy whenever he gets out of prison. And even the infamous Mahoney, if he makes his debut. Now, I know there's been a lot of talk about the recent IMDb credits, listing Omari Hardwick in episode 10 of Force, along with a changed episode synopsis from Power Season 6 episode 15. While I'm not fully sold on those being legit, mainly due to the fact that IMDb can be edited and approved pretty easily. Keep in mind that we saw something similar after Season 3 of Raising Kanan ended, when a fake synopsis circulated, claiming Breeze would appear in the Season 4 premiere episode. With that being said, over a year ago, there were reports from local residents saying Omari Hardwick was spotted on set during the filming of Force Season 3. So the real question is, do I think Ghost returns in the finale? Stay tuned for my next Ghost Town video, where I'll break down some things I've never talked about before, and the one major clue that could explain everything. And remember, in the Power universe, nothing can ever truly be ruled out. What are your takeaways from the latest episode, and how do you see things ending in the finale? Let me know down below in the comment section. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for all things within the Power universe. See you all next time in the universe of Power.